the meeting. And we'll, okay, welcome everyone. I did send a text message to Kathy, and if she comes in, we'll find out. Oh, she said, she just texted back. She's gonna be a little late. So we'll start without her and we'll catch her up when she gets here. So today's topic is special topic. One of them, I think, is the phone system.
Yeah.
And well, is there a second one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think,
Not for today.
yeah.
All right, well, at the end, Kate, I had a thought about yesterday's meeting that I wanted to share, so I'll wait until after we cover the, because I know everybody else's eyes may glaze over
Okay, that sounds good.
accounting details. So, all right, so on to the phone system.
Sorry, Jean is just trying to get in. I think
Oh,
she
okay.
had the wrong ID. Can you give me just a quick second?
No problem. The Zoom, getting everybody happily onto Zoom is always a little bit of a challenge in the morning.
Okay. As soon as she pops in, I'll let her know. So, or I'll let her in. So.
Sounds good. So who has the info on the phones? Doug. Oh,
Kate is going to go through this.
okay. All right.
I'll do the info. Doug's going to do the sharing to keep us a little tighter protected.
All right.
All right. So you can go right ahead and start that slideshow. We'll go right into the first the current telephone system. So what we have right now at Town Hall is called a PBX system, and that stands for Private Branch Exchange. And that is actually the image right there is just a little bit newer version of the one that we actually have. It's a VIA phone system. The PBX is that large rectangular piece that is physically installed down in the locked storage room where we have all of our equipment, and then it ties to each of the handsets that are, as everyone knows, all around the building, lots of different places. So the equipment is on site at the town hall. Currently, what we have is 15 telephone lines, which the telephone service, we pay First Light for the fiber connection of the analog phone lines. And then the telephone support, which is the actual Avaya phones themselves and the PBX equipment, that is supported through Integrated. So currently we do use two different providers, and sometimes we have run into an issue where we're trying to resolve something that's happening. For example, we were having some trouble with the telephone lines getting kind of, I'll say for simplification, switched. Someone would call the court and then it would go to Caitlin, or someone would call the town clerk and it would go to the court. And it made it a little bit tricky to figure out how to resolve that, because First Light was saying it's your equipment and Integrated was saying it's First Light. So there was a little bit of difficulty resolving some of the issues due to that. Doug, I can see your email.
Right. Yeah. So the screen switched to your person.
Perfect. Thank you.
There's a couple of people are having trouble getting in. They're sending.
Oh, okay.
So.
I did have to re-register for today before I got on.
Me too.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't had to typically.
Interesting.
So playing into that service and support, the next item is that we have a fixed number of what's called trunks. And trunks are just a term for the number of phone lines coming in. So that rectangular PBX system can only manage a certain number of telephone lines. So we would not be able to expand beyond those number of lines without purchasing another piece of equipment in order to allow us to expand. So there's some limitation to the expansion, as well as the number of extensions we can use on the PBX system. That's limited by the system, and then we would need, if we had more, to add a new system.
So do you know the total number that we're limited to? I mean, is the number bigger than we would ever use, or what?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but I do know our current system is not maxed out. So there is still a small amount of flexibility in our current system.
Yep.
And then as I said, the Avaya Office is through integrated systems. With the Avaya Office, we have an online portal where the administrator can log in and make changes. And for, I want to say, almost a year, we have not been able to log into that system. There have been a lot of issues with that portal. Samantha, when she was still here, was managing it and was very, very frustrated. We would need to call integrated. They would need to make changes. It just simply wasn't really working as streamlined as we had hoped, and that would really make things move quickly. So we have experienced some difficulties, some challenges with the current system. Nothing that hasn't been able to be resolved, but has definitely delayed the resolution. And then lastly, the piece that we've really run into more recently with everyone working remotely is that there isn't a uniform way to connect different locations. And that's because the PBX system is physically on site at Town Hall. So only Town Hall campus, and then the conduit brings us over to Highway, can be on the same telephone system. And what that means is I can hit 2250 and call Caitlin, but I can't hit 2248 and call Jeff Winter down at Ononda Park. And vice versa, the gatekeepers can't hit an extension and call Town Hall. And so what that has done is it's led to a lot of personal cell phone use. And in addition, the town is paying for additional cell phones. And what that's done is it's just created a lack of uniformity. There is different telephone numbers. For example, Jim has 2 or 3 different numbers you can call. Caitlin has a couple different numbers, same with Troy. If you leave a voicemail at Town Hall on someone's voicemail, they have to actually come to Town Hall and listen to it or have it transcribed to an email. So again, there's just the lack of uniformity as well that we've really experienced lately with the remote office and the situation that we have right now. So because our system is currently supported through integrated systems, I figured that was a really great place to start. And I reached out to Integrated and I said to them, hey, we're looking at our phone systems and I wondered what different options there are. And Dave is great. He's over at Integrated. He was super helpful. And he said, first and foremost, you do not have to get rid of your PBX system. You're welcome to keep your PBX system. We currently pay $257 a month for the 15 telephone lines. And then we pay just under $600 a year for Integrated to provide maintenance and support of our telephones. And he said, we can continue to maintain the PBX system. We can quote you an updated PBX system, so you could get a new version. The telephones could be purchased. If we were to go that route, all of the equipment and the telephones would be purchased upfront for a little bit higher cost than maybe some of the other options. And then we could continue to maintain it and function in the way that we do right now. However, when it comes to the features of the telephone system, we are currently using all of the features offered. And there are no options for example, unification of multiple locations or text messaging or video calls. Those are all not features that are offered with the current PBX system or a new PBX system.
So Kate, $257 a month was for what?
That's the first light bill. That's the telephone lines themselves.
Oh, that's First Light. Okay.
Yep.
And then what we pay to integrated is just $600 a year because we own our equipment.
Correct. You got it. Yep.
Okay. And then when we talked to them about the fact that we couldn't update online like we needed to, are they promising any fix, or what are they saying about that?
So their integrated serves as kind of a middleman between Avaya home office and us, the end customer. So what their solution has been is they continue to work on the portal, and in the meantime, someone at integrated will actually physically do what we need it to do. They'll do like
So it's
that
a little
service.
inconvenient, but they're doing the work.
Yes, yeah, it takes a little bit longer to get it done. Takes a little control out of our hands, but they do get it done for us. And we've been able to resolve it, just not in the way that we would do it directly through the portal.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
just
So
an example of that is, for instance, like when the town hall is closed for a holiday and we need to update the system. So to say that there's the town hall is closed for the day, it becomes a problem. We're not able to do it. And conversely, we've had days where people can't call the town hall. And I've had residents call my cell phone and say, hey, there's no way to call the town hall. And so come to find out it's the system. So the system is not functioning adequately, efficiently, and it's to the point where some days it just doesn't work.
Okay, so the system is aging and not working all the time.
Exactly. Yes, we're definitely aged out. And like I said, there is an option to buy new equipment. But what Dave said to me is, hey, let me talk to you about this other option. And what that other option is called a hosted IP PBX, or can you go back one? Sorry, Doug. Or a VoIP, which means voice over IP. And that simply means it's converting our analog telephone lines over to an IP internet line. And what integrated offers is they have a whole bunch of equipment, unlimited number of PBX systems and lines at their office in Victor. And they offer a service where they will host the equipment, and then we have this system that connects to the internet at our office. So that would be the hosted IP. And what that does is it eliminates the town's responsibility to purchase the equipment outright and maintain the equipment outright. If one of the phones were to have an issue or stop working, you would simply exchange the telephone for a new one, and integrated would provide that, and then we would be working again. So that does take away the expense of maintenance and installation on site. In addition, the hosted IP, it changes from being a fixed system to a scalable system that can be changed from month to month. And the reason that is scalable is because what it does is it takes our current system where we have the equipment on site and we pay for it up front to a per user system, which each month we would be billed per the number of users and their equipment. And that is more, you see that much more common with a cloud or a hosted system. For example, when we went from the utility billing software that we owned to the utility billing software that's on the cloud, we made that same transition where we had originally spent a lot to purchase it up front. Now we pay a smaller monthly fee to maintain that cloud hosted system from a month-to-month basis. So this would be the same idea with the hosted IP PBX system. And it does allow us to make changes if someone adds, someone leaves, someone wants to have a different setup, we can always make those changes month to month. The other feature that the hosted system offers is a unified office. And because the system is over the internet, as long as you have the internet, and you have the equipment, which would be your phone or an application on a cell phone or a computer, you can log into that equipment and it will unify the system. So in a hosted PBX environment, we would ideally have internet down at Ononda Park. We would have a telephone at the ranger station, and that telephone could pick up, hit the extension to Doug and say, Doug, I'm here at the park. I need you to come down right away. The other unifying feature is that phone numbers become masked. And what that means is if, for example, I'm out of the office and I'm using my cell phone, I can access the application for the Avaya office and place calls through that application. And so when I call out, the user or the person receiving the call from me is going to see 394-1120. They're not going to see 941-7928. So it does mask and unify the telephone numbers so that the personal phone numbers are not being distributed to the public. And then lastly, they do offer much more robust feature options with a hosted system. As I mentioned, there is an application you can access on your phone or on your desktop computer, your mobile phone or desktop computer. And that opens up a whole new system where we could send text messages within our organization. We can have video calls up to 100 people within our organization. We can even provide links and have video calls with people outside of the organization through the office, the cloud office application. And it really, when you think about how much opens up when you go to an internet-based system, it's really pretty endless what we could do with that. And again, there is a portal that would be managed by the administrator at the town that we could log into and look at all the different features, make changes, and like Doug said, change the message on the auto attendant, all of those things. So it would still have a portal, it would still work similarly, but we would no longer have our equipment at the town hall. The equipment would be over at the hosted office, and it would allow us to bring in our other locations. So that was a great conversation with Integrated. They were so educational and helpful, and I really appreciated all of that. And I said, you know, let me just continue to explore this. So being that Integrated and First Light work together on our current system, I went to First Light next. And Doug, if you could just go to the next slide for us, please. Thank you. First Light said, yeah, we absolutely offer a cloud hosted system. It's called Cloud Communications. They provide our internet currently, First Light does, as well as those phone lines. So they would be able to continue providing our internet. First Light in 2017, you may remember them as Finger Lakes Technologies Group. In 2017, Finger Lakes Technologies Group was acquired by First Light. First Light is based in Maine, and they're very robust in the Northeast, and their servers and hosted solutions are all located in the Maine area. And First Light is used currently at Ontario County. I've left a couple messages for Sean over there, but I have not been able to get a real personal reference, but I do know that they have been using them for quite some time now. And as you know, it's fairly easy to communicate with people at the county. They have a uniform telephone system. Each office has the last 4 digits, 396, whatever, for each office. And that even if they're working remotely, people can answer that exact telephone number. And then the last one that I did speak to was Verizon Wireless. We currently have cell phone service and a couple of hotspots through Verizon Wireless that we use. So I figured it would be helpful to talk to them as well and see if they offer anything. They offer a program called One Talk, which they partner with Masters Telecom for that program. And Masters Telecom is who would provide on-site installation and training and walk us through that program. With Verizon Wireless, I was a little nervous. I said, well, does it have to be a Verizon phone? And they said, absolutely not. You could use an AT&T cell phone. You could use a Dell computer. Again, they have an application that you download onto whatever device you're using, and that would be serving as your phone use. And with Verizon, the one difference is that it's voice over LTE instead of voice over IP. And what that is simply voice over the Verizon 4G LTE network rather than through an IP address. So just looking at all three of those, I asked a lot of questions and learned a lot. And one of the things that I learned, Doug, if you could go to the next slide, please, is that we are currently restricted. And what that means is the town did sign in 2017 a 60-month agreement with Finger Lakes Technologies for those telephone lines. And as I was talking to First Light to get our quote, they did let me know that if we were to port our lines away, which if we wanted to keep our phone numbers like 1120 and 3300, and we went to a different, say we went to integrated, we would need to port that line away. And she said, if we were to do that, there is a penalty to that contract, which is equal to the monthly reoccurring charge, that $257 times the months that are remaining on the contract. The contract expires August of 2017. What was it? 17?
It'll be 22.
Yep. 22. So a little bit over, I would say a year and a half or so we're at with that. So I asked a lot of questions, and she got, I think maybe got a little nervous. And I said, no, I just want to understand it completely. I'm not looking to make a decision. I just want to be able to explain it completely. So that is the situation that we are currently restricted by when it comes to First Light. And so now let's dig into the good stuff. I did ask all three to give us a quote. And what's a little bit interesting about this is that we can't really look at them on the surface. We have to dig into the quotes a little bit because they're not quite apples to apples. If you see here, this is the Avaya quote. And the Avaya quote is breaking us down between the top section, which is the monthly reoccurring charge. And then the bottom section is the one-time charges. And you'll see the very first thing on the monthly recurring charge detail is the standard user. Excuse me, like I said before, the main difference with this is we would be going from a equipment purchase outright and a small monthly fee to then paying each month per user based on their needs and what their equipment is. So here at the Avaya, they've got just about $21. They've given us some pretty generous discounts here, as well as they've broken down the digital lines. What that is, the basic lines are those conference room call phones, the ones that aren't directly to a user. And they did offer us a lower rate for those phones because they're not as robust in their features. And then right below that is the phone with the expansion model, and that would be Michelle's station or anyone who would be answering and acting as an operator. There is a little bit higher cost with that to have that expansion model added on. And then there are some fees in there. Now with the one-time charge, what Avaya is offering right now, it's valid through the end of June, is that they are waiving all of the one-time charges. So there would be no upfront cost. They're giving us the telephones. As you can see here, the phones are $114 a piece. They would be giving that to us at no cost on the agreement of signing for 12 months. And they're also waiving the installation. Now, one little caveat that I picked up on with this is you'll see the very last line, professional services implementation provided by integrated. It says 0, but it says PSA. And what that means is any time integrated spends installing our system will be billed to our current service agreement, that 7,500 hours that we purchase in blocks. So yes, they're telling me here on the quote that there's no fee for installation, but the time on site would be billed to our system. And so depending on how that time, how much time it takes, it definitely could cut into what we currently have and the time that we have with integrated on that service agreement.
So the savings that they're saying with this, like, hey, buy it now and you can save, is about, it's hard. It's, in fact, Doug, maybe we could go to like presentation mode. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Make it a little bigger. It looks like, oh, it's $3,000. Is that what they're saying? Like normally you'd pay about $3,000.
Correct. And that'd
Okay,
be a one-time upfront.
did they say how long it would take to install?
It depends on our needs. So it could be anywhere between 2 hours to 2 days. It depends on what our needs are for the installation.
So you had that conversation with them so they couldn't tell you what that need would be? They couldn't give you a better definitive?
He said generally it's a day or so, but it varies based on, if we're, say we set it up one way and then realize, oh, it's really not working that way. We'd like to switch it. The next day they'll come back, they'll bill us again. It'll be charged again to that service agreement, which does, it's there. We have it with integrated. We already have an existing
Right, but it's
relationship.
cash we're spending. It's money we're spending.
It is, yeah.
And then if we take 18 months times the penalty from First Light, for the
It's
existing,
about
$4,600.
$3,500 to $4,000.
Oh, okay. I took 18 times 257. It's not 18 times 257.
Yeah, does that give you about just over $4,000?
$4,625 or 24.
We when I worked with Jen on that, we came to about 41 just because we knew there'd be a little bit of time to get things implemented. I think I went with 16 months.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Yep. That would take some away. Okay. All right.
All right. So this is Avaya. This is the Avaya quote. And then next we do have a First Light quote. So with First Light, what they've done here is given us a 36-month option. Now the previous option was based on 12 months. This is based on 36 months, which would be 3 years. And you can see here right away, it says standard seat license, $10.79. On the last system, it said $20.99. So I said, what's the difference? And if you look here through the items, you'll see this, the third and fourth items are the router and the switch. And what those are required equipment that come on site, and we plug, those are our on-site equipment. That's what transfers our analog telephone lines over to the IP lines. And what happened in Avaya is they build that cost into the user. Here on First Light, they're breaking it apart. And that's where we just need to dig into this a little bit more and understand everything that that they're charging, because it's not directly user to user, because this router and switch are offered broken down in First Light. So obviously our standard seat license is a little bit less than it was before. The enhanced seat, that's the operator, again, with the expansion model. And then here they have a broken down cost as well for the auto attendant. And then the telephones with First Light, the telephones are done on a lease to own, where they would bill us each month for the telephone at a small cost. And at the end of the agreement, we would own it. I did ask if there was another option for that. And when it came to the equipment, and they did provide me with some information. If we were to, let me just pull this up here. If we were to purchase the router, the switch, and the telephone, the conference phone, which is that Polycom Conference 5000 unit, we would have a $3,300 non-reoccurring charge. So one time we would pay $3,300, and then the monthly fee would decrease to $493 per month. So there is a little bit of flexibility if we wanted to choose to purchase some of the equipment up front versus paying for it each month. And that does reduce the total monthly reoccurring fee. And interestingly enough, she did also give me a 60-month agreement, which would be 5 years. And the total monthly reoccurring fee actually goes up if we were to go with a 60-month agreement.
That's
Who's
weird.
responsible for the maintenance on the switch and the router if we lease it?
First Light. And if we lease it or if we purchase it, either way, the maintenance of the equipment is done through the company that we would purchase it from.
And
So even if we were to purchase it outright, if we had an issue with it, First Light would provide the maintenance and support for that. If we had to purchase a new one, they likely wouldn't replace it, but there would be a cost to the town if it were. But if it were under warranty or if it just needed some maintenance, they would be able to provide that for us.
Hey, I had a question about the number of phones that are listed. On the last one, it said 30 phones. On this one, it says 25, but I thought it was going to be an app on our existing cell phones. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So only a couple of the users want to use an app on their phone. There are still 25 different locations where people want a desktop phone. So on the last one, they did break it down a little bit differently, but ultimately at the end of the day, we are looking at the same number here with 35 users, 25 of whom would want a physical desk phone, and then 9 of whom would use a mobile device or their computer. And then 1 is the conference room, that center conference room. We have that octopus phone, and that's what that Polycom conference phone is. And you'll see that on each of the quotes as well. But again, with this, it's fully customizable. So if someone is using a phone and they say, you know what, I'm really not using this phone, we can make that change from month to month. Or if someone says, I don't want a phone, and then they realize it's actually a little more difficult, or they don't like using their mobile, we can add a phone. And what First Light suggested to me was that at this point, we are getting a discounted rate on the equipment. So they did suggest that we go with as many pieces of equipment or phones as we think we would need. And that way, if we do have some flexibility, we don't need to go purchase something at a different rate down the line because they may not still be able to offer the same discount. And the other piece with the First Light here is that these monthly recurring charges aren't showing you the discount, but she did explain to me that these pricing here is more aggressive than the current New York State pricing on contract that they offer. So I don't quite have that detail from First Light. They weren't so willing to share the discount, but she did assure me these rates had been discounted.
So on the previous one, there's no contract. There's no time frame on the contract, correct?
For 1 year?
Verizon was a 12-month agreement.
Oh, no, that was integrated, wasn't it? Or
Integrated.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, integrated is 36 months.
That's just an ongoing charge. That's not $3,600 for 3 years.
no, it's the
pricing-
$814 a month for 3 years.
Correct. Yep. The pricing would be locked in for 36 months.
Okay. All right.
Yep. And then First Light would be locked in for 36 months.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we have our One Talk quote from Verizon, and that is the one, this price is locked in for 12 months. So here what Verizon is providing us is, again, with the user, the One Talk line, they've combined them all together. It's a flat rate of $25. And then there's a charge for the auto receptionist, and the Business Phone Connect is the Verizon version of the router and switch. And so that's more, it's kind of like a monthly service, kind of like having Verizon service there. And then the cost breakdown gives us the one-time fees, the Verizon device, those are all the telephones. The master's device, that is the Business Connect phone that converts the analog to the 4G. And then you can see clearly they've given us some aggressive discounts here as well. So with Verizon, we would pay just under $1,900 up front and an $840 per month reoccurring service fee. And again, these are just to give us an idea of the information. We've done kind of an overview. We've talked to people about what they would want, and I put together some numbers. And then my idea of this conversation is that we get a little bit of feedback from the finance committee, perhaps some direction in moving forward with one or two of these vendors. And that then moving to really solidifying, putting everything concretely together for what we're truly going to be using. I don't think it'll vary much from what we have, but people do sometimes change their mind, and certain things do sometimes change. So this is to give us an idea, and then we can move forward. And if you could move one more slide, Doug. Lastly, the nice thing about that is all three of these quotes that I presented to you today are New York State contract quotes. As I mentioned, First Light did say they've given us more aggressive pricing than the contract, but being that all three of these vendors are on New York State contract pricing, it gives us the flexibility to work with someone and make some adjustments and really fine tune the quotes without having to go back out to bid, because we do have that New York State contract ability to piggyback.
So let me see if I understand something. With First Light, we have an existing contract that is, I think we talked about, it's about 3,600 from right now, but could be as much as 3,000. If First Light is the vendor, which they end up looking like they're the most
least.
economical one at this point, is that 3,000 still in play? Do we need to wait until we're done, or does that go away?
They'll waive it. If we choose to stay with First Light and we choose to sign another agreement, there will not be a charge for the penalty. They would not charge us a penalty.
Did you have big discounts with the integrated proposal? Like you're showing these big discounts with Verizon and First Light.
Yeah, the biggest discount with integrated is the equipment. If you look at the one-time charge details, the phones themselves, they're discounting us $3,400. That's allowing us to purchase the phones outright at zero cost based on a 12-month agreement.
The one thing I'm looking at is on those other two, when the 3 years is over, I gotta wonder if those big discounts are gonna go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think we can certainly negotiate as we move forward. As I said, they're both on New York State contracts, so I do anticipate they would continue to submit their pricing to New York State contract. But yeah, it does. I think in that case, it puts us in that situation, no matter which vendor we go with.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, I did also receive a 60-month option from First Light, if that was something we wanted to look at. I felt the 36 was more appropriate, considering we're having this conversation today, and we signed the contract with them in 2017. So just about 3 years ago, we're kind of having this conversation again. It seems like that was a little bit more appropriate of a timeline. I think 60 months would lock us into something that may be longer than we anticipate.
Yeah, you don't want to go out that far.
Yeah.
Well,
Technology changes.
Our current annual fee, if you take the 257 times 12 plus the 600 of maintenance, is about 3,000, or no, it's about $4,000 a year.
Yep, just under, yep.
And so with this is in any direction, it's going to be a pretty big increase for us.
How big? I mean, it's what is it? $1,000? $2,000? But you also have to take into account that I think I heard Kate mentioning earlier that we're using cell phones a lot more. So you got to take into account the possible decrease in cost of that usage.
Well, a lot of our people are on unlimited plans. So the cell phone, right? I mean, I think
Yeah,
we've been,
so the Verizon ability, if we were to go to a hosted system, the Verizon bill, the pieces that we would be able to remove from that would be the hotspot services to the parks. But we would need to replace that with an internet, a hardwired internet. So really the difference in going from the cloud, from what we have now to the cloud, is the purchase of the outright equipment. So we could this year purchase a new PBX system and a new set of phones to the tune of somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000. And then we could continue to pay about $4,000 a month for this service.
or 4,000 a year. Yeah.
Yeah. Or what we could do is not spend the 20 to 30,000 on the equipment and instead opt for a little bit larger month-to-month fee, where we're not owning the equipment, or I would say maintaining the equipment on site.
Yeah, if say it's at this lowest one, the first, like the 572, the amount goes up to about 6,900 from 4,000. So it's about a $3,000 increase, which, I mean, getting all new equipment and everything, it is going to cost us some money somehow. I'm just thinking of our budgets.
The one other
Think of it
piece with the hosted equipment is having the telephones being hosted over the internet allows for month-to-month rollout of updates. So if the system is updated and something new comes out, it rolls out to the user automatically. Right now, our current Avaya phones are over 5 years old, and there's no option to upgrade those unless we were to literally buy new phones, which we would purchase the equipment fully outright. The upgrade is limited because of that ownership versus the more of a lease or rent to own relationship that exists in the hosted system.
You mentioned video calls and things like that. Is that possible with the First Light, or is that only with, are
Yes.
they all pretty much the same?
Yes, yeah, when it comes to the features that are offered, these are very, very, very similar features that are offered. First Light does their web calls through WebEx. That's they have a shared platform on the First Light portal, so we would be able to have video calls using the WebEx platform.
And we would
on
not need
First
to
Light.
pay, would we need to pay extra for that?
No, that would be part of our agreement with First Light.
Just wondering.
Yeah, the restriction with that, I would say, would be public meetings, our town board meetings, and the things that we do publicize for people to join. That would be a little bit more difficult to do through the phone
Right.
system.
We would
But when
probably
it comes to like us, when we met yesterday, the three of us could have easily met through the phone system rather than using Zoom for that.
right.
It also offers text messages. We can send text messages. And one of the nice features is e-fax. I mentioned that to Caitlin. She really liked that feature because we would be able to get electronic faxes. We would no longer have to maintain the fax machine at town hall, buy the ink for that and check it, and that kind of thing. We would be able to e-fax right through the portal.
I think for the small increase in cost, the efficiencies in your operations, and Doug mentioning that the phone system we have now continues to go down. The only time this is going to go down is if you lose your internet. And if these places that are hosting it have some redundancy in their internet, it might never go down.
Yeah, exactly. So say town hall loses internet, our phone might not be able to, like your desk phone might not work, but your cell phone, it has mobile capabilities. You can use that right on you can use the app using your data on your phone. Onondaga Park has internet, town hall doesn't. Well, Onondaga Park's phones are still going to work. And then they're hosted, if it really, the real issue would be if the location where the system was hosted were to have an issue. then all of the customers would have an issue. But again, they have, their system is located in Maine, and they did assure me they have a secondary backup with that as well.
Does
Just so-
anyone else on the
I was gonna
town
say,
board have any
just-
questions on this?
Just so you know, for budget purposes, we knew that there was a problem as we're preparing the budget. So with their phone system, there is $22,000 in the 21 budget for upgrading or doing something with the phone system. So and that would be based if we were to have to actually physically replace. What Kate has discovered through all of her time and research is there's many probably more efficient options than going that route. So.
All right.
Katie, did you happen to have a chance to contact any other First Light customers or integrated customers or even Verizon customers that have this current system to see how satisfied they are? Because I know Jerry, my husband's business, had Verizon. It was awful. So they ended up switching over to Spectrum. So I was just wondering if we were able to do anything like that yet.
First Light is in use at Ontario County, and I mentioned I have reached out to Sean, but I have not heard back. I've left a couple messages, but I have not heard back. I mean, they've had it for several months now. They've been using it, and they have not made a switch. So that leads me to believe that it's functioning properly, but I would like, yes, to get that from the mouth. straight from the mouth.
We're a current customer of First Light, correct?
Yes.
Have we ever had a problem with that vendor with what we have?
There was a
I'm
small issue
looking at
with
it from a
our
different
internet. What was that, about 6 months ago? We had a little issue with the internet, and within a few hours, they had a technician out front working on the pole, and it was resolved that day. Their First Light is very aggressive. They really, really want to have a good relationship with us, and they really want to offer, as I mentioned, you know, I had asked about the monthly recurring charge and that kind of thing. And I said, well, you know, what if we ported our phone lines away, but then we added some new internet options? Say we add internet through First Light at the parks, the 2 parks. And she said, well, we're absolutely open to negotiation. We want to have a good relationship, an ongoing long-term relationship. In the Northeast, they're very, very serious, and you can tell from their pricing, they're very aggressive as well. They're in a little bit of a different ballpark than the other 2.
Well, their price, I mean, it's kind of looking at this data, it's kind of an easy analysis, right? They're cheaper, and we also would have the penalty if we went in a different direction. So it's like, oh, gee, pretty easy to choose. But you know, it's just the timing of when do we need to pull the trigger on this?
I've had some issues with our internet, and I know that there were some questions about whether or not that was First Light, but that's really more on our end, as Tyler has really explained that to me and worked with him. So their internet service comes in, and oh, by the way, within the last year, First Light did upgrade our internet service for free for us, the speeds that we get. But one of the issues that comes in is basically the internet comes into the building into our switch, and our switch is choking it down. So we have to do something with our piece of it. And really the way it works right now is all the internet comes into our switch, it gets choked down, it goes to our server, you know, which would be like down here. And then it comes back out from there, goes back out, and then it goes to all of our employees working remotely and everything else. There's other ways to do that. That's kind of
The next
that to
page,
the side. That's a different issue, but it really is not First Light's fault with that. So.
I see.
And with the phone system, First Light did also offer, with the phone system, they said that right now we have 50 megabytes of internet. They had given us the upgrade from 30 to 50 at no cost. And they said if we choose to go with the telephone system, they will double our internet to 100 megabytes, and it would be an addition of just $30 a month.
Well, we're gonna if they do that, we're gonna need to remove the chokes, right?
Well, their
Yeah.
equipment, they're gonna give you the new switch, the new equipment, so that should take care of that.
Well, I think that's a different switch, Joe. I think.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It is, yeah. The switch they'll give us is the conversion of the analog telephone lines to the IP lines. But I think ultimately that would actually put a little bit more demand on our switch, which is what manages the IP lines themselves.
Do we know what a new switch is gonna cost?
They're expensive.
Yes, they are expensive.
Approximately.
And Tyler and I've been talking about that. It could easily be $5,000. It just depends. He's looking at some different options for us. But I think it also, so the phone system is one issue, the internet is another issue, and even the server aspect. And there's a deeper conversation that needs to take place here. So for instance, let me go back to, we have, like, for instance, Caitlin is working remotely right now. She needs a file on the network, for instance. So she has to VPN. And when she VPNs in, it comes through that choke point, through our switch, and it comes into our network for her to get access. And when she's doing that, because she's on VPN, it's down here in this lower level, but then it's choked down at this slower internet speed and everything else. There's other ways of doing that. For instance, our information can be in a cloud platform, and then we can have it automatically back up to our network here on site, so that our data is still physically on the property, but also so that everybody's operating at this higher level instead of going through these choke points. So that's kind of a different conversation, but that's a conversation we also are still going to need to explore further.
Well, eventually you're going to have to replace that switch that you're talking about.
Yep.
So if you've got the 26,000 in your budget now, wouldn't you want to at least look at it?
Yes, to answer your question for sure, Joe, but I think we also need to understand what our needs would be for that switch in relation to these other pieces.
Okay.
If we were in a cloud thing, maybe the pull on the switch would be less. You just, but look, I agree with Joe in terms of if we were considering buying the equipment for the phone and we're not, we might be able to splurge on the new switch so that we're not constrained. Does anyone else from the town board have any questions on this? Gary, Kathy?
No, I don't at the present time.
Okay, thanks. I think Kathy's there. Maybe I'm mute. I'll take that as a no. But this is really great. Thank you for this analysis. I love that we're getting the quotes. I love that we're doing our due diligence. This is definitely just the right thing for us to do, is go out and see. And the fact that they're all on the state contracts gives us some confidence that we're getting a good price.
Yeah, they're all on state contract and they're all vendors we currently have relationships with. So we, although we may not have a recommendation for this particular piece of equipment, we do have existing relationships where we've been working with all of these vendors continuously for quite some time and have experienced reliable service.
So you think the next step is to what? What do we think we're going to do next on this?
So I was hoping to get some feedback from the committee today regarding moving perhaps in, like I said, with one vendor or one or two vendors, that we could really narrow things down and start finalizing, tie up the loose ends, dot our I's and cross our T's. And that would allow us to move forward, or at least give us a direction in moving forward in the next month or two, to then present a contract to the board for approval at a town board meeting.
I think your best option is the First Light option. I mean, they're providing your internet. And maybe what you do is ask them for some of their, like Jean said, ask for some of the people that they service now with us, and contact them.
Right, before we pull a trigger, let's try to check with their references. Although finding our own, like Ontario County, where we actually know the people rather than talking to people they give us, is probably the best way to do that. So, but yeah, my thought is the numbers tell a clear story. If we were to start down a path, we should be starting with First Light.
I agree. I agree. And I did mention with First Light, they did give us the option of purchasing some of the equipment outright. Is that something you'd like me to continue to show? Is both the monthly reoccurring and the option to purchase some outright to decrease that monthly reoccurring charge?
I think that we should look at it. I think we can do the, the net present value of the two options and figure out which one makes more sense for us. Obviously, for most of these people, I think the reason it's so much higher for the integrated quote is they're going to give us a brand new piece of equipment every time one fails. Here, we're owning the equipment. And so I feel like if one conks out, we might get stuck with some of the bill. But if it's under warranty for a number of years, we might be safe with that.
Yes, as long as the term of the contract exists with First Light, if we were to have an issue with one of the phones, they would swap it out and it would be only the monthly reoccurring charge that we would incur.
Yeah, so in some ways, sometimes that's an easier way to make sure once you own it, you might have to buy it again. But if you see the numbers, we can always just run them both ways and see what we think.
Well, and once we own it, at the end of 3 years, those phones could be obsolete as well.
Well, they likely will be, just like the ones we're using now.
Right, that's exactly the situation we're in now, where our Avaya phones are. They're still supported. We can still get support for them, but they are not currently sold anywhere. If we needed to buy a new one for the system, we would be like on eBay trying to find one that works with our system.
All right.
All right, great. Well, thanks so much for the direction. I'll keep that communication going, and we'll move that direction. And
okay. Kate, just one more thing before we go. So yesterday, Joe and Kate and I met on the bank reconciliations, and what we agreed to do so far, just as an update, is that Kate's going to reconcile the account for February. We were trying to use year end, and there's a lot of confounding factors in the year end reconciliation. So we're going to make sure the February account is reconciled, and we're going to look at those accounts for very old items that need to be cleared out and suggest an entry. At the same time, Kate, what struck me yesterday after the meeting was, I think you might have mentioned that there were some accounts receivables that were still hanging out. Those need to be cleared up too, all in that same time frame. And it would be great if we could, kind of come to some conclusion on some of those old accounts receivables that we know are no longer real.
Yeah, absolutely. As we mentioned about making some adjustments. So what I'll do is I'll do the reconciliation, and then we'll add those adjustments and show them separately at the bottom.
Together. Right. Yeah.
And see where that gets us.
And then Joe and Kate and I are going to meet again in almost 2 weeks' time, and we are going to go over what she's dug out and what she's come up with. But that was the summary of what we did at our meeting yesterday for everyone. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. So I feel like we've accomplished what we set out to today. Good work on the phone system. Thank you for presenting that. And everybody have a great day. We'll adjourn, and I guess our next meeting for finance will be next month, the second and third Thursdays. So
sorry, I missed a bunch. I had a bunch of phone calls, but I will watch when it's up on
YouTube. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, and the numbers are very clear. What's the best option? This is not a hard decision to make when you see the numbers. So
it seems like I got back on the important part. So
okay.
Not that it isn't all important.
Next month, Linda, the 2nd is the 8th and the 3rd is the 15th. But the meeting is the Monday, the 19th. So maybe for April, would we be interested in doing the 3rd and 4th Thursday rather than the 2nd and 3rd, just to keep us on the same schedule with the town board meeting?
What are those dates?
The 8th and the...
Yeah, on April 1st is a Thursday. So the 8th is the second Thursday, the 15th is the third Thursday, and the 22nd is the fourth Thursday. And then there's actually 5 of them in April.
Yeah, I won't be here the 22nd.
Yeah, and I think I need the 8th for that other matter we discussed anyway, with the town board and executive session. So if we could do that on the 8th.
So
and
we'll
then
stick it
review
with the
again.
8th for now. And if we have to add a separate meeting, we can for that later date, but we'll just we'll stick with it so that if we need it, Doug can have executive session. We can advertise it in advance. All right. Then I think I will adjourn our meeting.
Okay, have a good week, everybody.
You too.
Yeah,
All right.
everybody,
Bye.
bye now.